Hello and thank you for clicking on this help video. So in this example, we have a bacterial culture has an initial population of 200 cells, and the population is going to double every 4 hours. So your homework problem is going to be very similar to this one right here. And let's see if I can guide you and answer any questions and go through any questions you might have about this. So we want to start by first figuring out the value of k. So to determine k, again, the general formula first is to, well, let me write the formula here, is that k is equal to the natural log of the ratio of the amount that we want to get to divided by the amount that we're starting off with. And then that number there gets divided by the time it takes us to go from our initial amount to our new amount. So here, the culture is going to start with 200. This bacterial culture starts with 200 cells. So A of 0 is 200. And we want to double that every 4 hours. So in 4 hours, this is going to double, so this is going to be a total of 400. And again, the time it takes us to double again is 4. So t is equal to 4. So to determine what k is here, all we're going to do is substitute in those values. So the natural log of 400 that we want to get to divided by the 200 that we start off with would be divided by 4, because 4 years to do exactly that. Now, you'll notice here that because we're doubling, the ratio of this thing, let me highlight it, the ratio of this simply reduces down to 2. So we could have just done that from the very beginning. So now let's plug it into decimals and see what value we get for our value of k. So with our population doubling in 4 years, the constant growth rate is going to be 17%, or in 0.173. We want to estimate our answer and round our answer to 3 decimal places. So let me give it the command round. This lets me round my answer. I'm going to just simply copy that, paste it there. Right now it gives me 0 because it's not rounding to anything, it's rounding to 0 place values, which, since this number right here is 0, is giving me that value. But as soon as I put a comma after that decimal and put the number I want to round it to, which is 3 decimal places, so 3, it rounds the number for me. So my answer is 0.173. So now that I know that the value of a is 0.173, I can now figure out the answer to part B, which is to use this value of k to write an exponential decay model for the bacteria population. So P for population, P of t will start off with, again, the 200 that we currently have. E, we're going to raise that to the 0.173 and multiply it with t. So this is the answer to part B. So now that we have part B, we can figure out the part C and estimate the population of this bacterial culture after 21 hours. So we're going to evaluate P of 21, which would be the 200 e to the 0.173, and we're going to replace t with 21. So again, this is how we evaluate it. Make sure again that you do not forget to write in this value of e there. And well, to round this to 0 decimal places, while this is acceptable, you could just simply copy and paste this into your answer box. You can round it. You can round it to 3 decimal places or maybe 0 decimal places, up to you. And you end up with 7565. So I'll round it to 0 decimal places. That's going to be acceptable. So there's your answer for part C. Now to get the answer to part D, you're going to use again the model from part B, the 200 e to this 0.173t, and you're going to set that equal to 50,732, because we want to now determine the time. So we do not know the value of t in order to get this amount. So a of some t, the amount at some time, is going to equal to this number. So our objective here is to solve this equation. So we begin by first dividing both sides by 200. E to the 0.173t. And I'm not going to simplify this ratio. I'm just going to leave it as this value here. And what I need to do from here in order to get rid of the e is I'm going to take the natural log to both sides of this equation. So we end up with 0.173t. You know what? Let me continue over here. So 0.73t equals to the natural log of 5732 divided by 200. And then that value gets divided by 173. So t equals to the natural log of 5732 divided by 0.173. I'm sorry, 200. Close the parentheses, and all of that gets divided by 0.173. So let's just plug it into decimals and see what value we get. All right, so let me zoom in here. I don't need that. I just need to write this here. Okay, so we're going to take, first of all, to type this in, I'm going to click on divide. I'm going to type in the natural log, and in the parentheses, I'm going to divide the 5732 by the 200, and then all of that's going to be divided by the 0.173, which is 31.99 or 32. So 32 years. And then finally, there's your answer for the last part. So 31.99 is acceptable, or you could just estimate that to the complete number of years, which will be 32 years. I hope this video was helpful, but if you still have any questions, please send me a message through Message the Instructor or through email. I appreciate you watching, and I hope you have a good day.